Every click, swipe, and tap your child makes could be feeding data to someone else. And it's not just for targeted ads. Online predators and companies both rely on this information. Today, I'll show you why keeping your child's data private is crucial, how it's being collected, and the tools you can use to stop it. And if you stick around to the end, I'll share a bonus tip on how you can remotely make changes to protect your child and prevent them from being changed later on by them. Welcome to the Parent Tech Support Show, where I empower parents with the tech knowledge they need to know to protect their kids online. My mission is to demystify parental controls, share practical tips, and reveal the tricks kids use so that you can navigate the online world with confidence. I'm your host, Jack Hughes, and because I grew up in this age of digital devices, I've had plenty of experience with getting around parental controls and doing things I wasn't supposed to. But those days are now over. Today, I use all the inside information and knowledge to help parents such as yourself protect your kids online. Now, why does it matter to keep your child's data safe? Well, for one, data is often collected by apps and other organizations and people. Letting your child's data run around can have many consequences, such as identity theft. Your children would have clean credit and no way to monitor their credit, which makes them prime victims to people stealing their identity to use it for credit and whatnot. Another huge, probably one of the most important one, is protection from online predators. Some predators will find data from kids, like addresses or schools they attend. For example, a man in Florida was able to track a 16-year-old girl by using a feature on Snapchat called SnapMap, because the girl shared her location on the app Snapchat. You also wouldn't want Facebook and other apps to know your child's location, what they've done in the morning, their microphone access. I think a lot of that comes down to common sense. It should be common sense that you wouldn't want your child's data online. It doesn't have to be just online predators, but also American and Chinese companies. You wouldn't want someone following your child around, listening and tracking everything they do. So why would you let their phone do that? So how does all of this work? How do people get the data? How do they get your child's location? How do they get microphone and camera access? Well, our phones and our devices, our iPads, our computers, the one I'm using to record this video, they have microphones and cameras. And they also have GPSs. And this is for all sorts of reasons. How could you take a video without a microphone or a camera? And some apps will use these tools, like the Maps app will use the location or will use the GPS built into the phone so that it can give you directions. But luckily, these companies who've built these apps, so an iPhone, for example, can control what apps or services gets access to these tools. You can control whether or not a certain app gets access to your camera or your phone's microphone. So for example, I could control whether or not Instagram has access to my microphone or my camera or my location, for that matter, even access to all my photos on my phone in my photo library. So what are the most important things you should be keeping an eye out for to protect your child's data? And I think number one, location services. Are you allowing your child's phone to broadcast their location to all these different apps and services? So to begin with, why do apps want location access? Apps use location data for features like navigation, as I just said earlier, check-ins, targeted ads. So Facebook will ask for your child's location, or your location for that matter, so that it can give you ads for that area. So for example, when I was here in Wisconsin where I live, I would get ads for dirt bikes in this area about 50 miles away from me, which makes sense. I kind of want ads for dirt bikes in this area because I'm looking to buy a dirt bike. But when I went out to to Colorado for a little trip with my friends, then I got ads for dirt bikes around Colorado, and they were much better deals because Colorado is a much better dirt bike state than Wisconsin. But I digress. A lot of these companies and apps like Facebook will use your location so that they can give you ads that apply to you in that location. So especially local businesses like a local car wash or a local window cleaning service. In fact, I used to use that feature when I had a little local boat cleaning business, but that's a story for another day. Now, it's up to you whether or not you want specific apps to have your child's location. Google Maps makes sense if they need to navigate, but Snapchat or Facebook may not be as smart. I would actually recommend you don't allow, especially Snapchat, because of Snap Map. In that case I just mentioned earlier about that predator in Florida. So what can you do to limit location access? On Apple devices, you can go to settings, privacy and security, and you can go to location services, and you can find the app, and you can change the location to while using the app. So only while using the app, it will be able to track the location, or never instead of always. Another tip I have too is only use precise location when necessary. So you have the option to either provide your precise location or just a general location of where you're at. So on Facebook, I just provide Facebook my general location. On Google Maps, I provide my precise location. So another little tip that might help you with that. All right, the second thing you want to look out for is microphone and camera access. So why do apps want access to the microphone and camera? Apps use microphones for voice commands, calls, recordings. The app I'm using to record this video wants access to my camera. Cameras are used for voice chats, FaceTime, augmented reality, content creation. Like if you want to record on TikTok, you need to let TikTok have access to your camera. And there are some apps that will want access that don't have any reason to have access to the camera and microphone. For example, I believe in Google Maps, I was actually looking through my phone as I was preparing for this podcast, and I found that Google Maps wants access to my camera. And I have no idea why it wants access to my camera. It makes sense why it would want access to my location. And if you want to turn it off on your phone or your child's phone, again, you can go to settings, privacy and security, and you scroll down to microphone/camera and find the app and toggle that off for the apps that don't need access to it. Or another tip, if needed, you can disable the camera altogether on screen time. So you can go to screen time, go to content and privacy restrictions, go to allowed apps and features, and go to camera and toggle that off and make sure that is protected with a password, or else it won't be enforced. But what that essentially is doing is you're disabling the camera altogether. So think of it, you're just like physically removing the camera. You're preventing the phone from ever being able to use the camera, and that's also protected by a password. Another one of the tracking things that you really want to keep an eye on, and a lot of people don't really know about this, and it's probably one of the most important things. In fact, Apple got not in trouble, but they kind of got in a lawsuit, I believe, with Facebook because this was such a big deal. And that is app tracking. So what is app tracking? Apps will ask to track your child's behavior across other apps and services and websites to show targeted ads. So for example, if your child searches for a toy on the Amazon app and they don't end up buying that toy, they might later see ads for that Amazon toy that they found on Amazon on other apps like Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. So essentially what this is doing is it allows apps to track what your child is doing on other apps throughout the phone, which is kind of scary. And I didn't even know this was really a big thing until I really digged into it and researched it. So I recommend that you should completely disable this for your child, but not just for your child, but also for you as well. There's really no reason why these apps should be tracking you across dozens of other services across your whole phone. it feels like a big encroach on your privacy, not just your privacy, also your child's privacy. So to turn this off, you're gonna go to settings, then you're gonna go to privacy and security, and you're gonna go to tracking, and the top toggle where it says allow apps to request to track, you want to toggle that off, which will prevent apps from tracking your child's and your data across other apps and websites. So we want to make sure that it's turned off. That is a very scary feature that I really do not like. So the next thing that you want to make sure that these apps and services do not have access to is photos and files access. So why do apps want access to photos and files? Apps may request access to photos and files for uploading content, sharing media, or backing up data. So to send a photo to a friend on Messages needs access to my photos. Same thing with files. Messages needs access to my files in order to send a file or to a photo. But some apps don't need access to photos. I'm sure there's apps like games who will want access to your photos, which seems kind of ridiculous. I know a lot of social medias will want access to your photos, but that makes some sense because they want to upload those photos to the social medias. What you can do is you can allow the social media to have access for like 10 minutes as you upload a photo or a video, and then disable access. So you want to be careful with that and not have all these apps to have access to your photos and files. And again, to limit that, go to settings, privacy or security, go to photos and set permissions for each apps. You can also select selected photos to grant access to, so that these apps will only have access to specific images instead of your entire photo library. And same thing with files, go to settings, privacy, security, go to files and folders, and toggle off access to apps that don't really need it. So these last few didn't really fit in a big main section, but there's still some importance to talking to them. These are all the miscellaneous features apps might want access to, but if they weren't important enough to get their own section. That would be reminders access. Apps will use this to set notifications or track tasks. Health access, so certain apps will want access to the health app, which is kind of like the general hub of all the health tracking. This ring I wear is a health ring, and the app wants access to my health so that I can better track my health data. There is focus access. Apps may request focus mode, integration to manage notifications. Some apps will want contacts and calendar access, so they might want access to your contacts so that you can add people from your contacts onto that app. So for example, when I download Snapchat will ask access to contacts so that I can add everyone who's in my contacts on Snapchat, if that makes sense. And other apps will also ask for HomeKit access. HomeKit is Apple's smart home app. It's kind of gimmicky. No one ever really uses it, to be honest. Some apps will ask for wallet access, so your phone will have all your wallets and all your cards on there. And some apps will want access to wallets for payments. So if you're buying a ticket online, maybe to the movies, maybe the ticketing app might ask for your wallet access, which makes some sense. Some apps will ask for Bluetooth access, so certain apps that are made to connect with Sony headphones, for example, may ask for Bluetooth access, and that all makes sense there. Other apps will ask for local network access, and local network allows you to play like multiplayer games on the same network. It's an easy way to join people, so it's pretty much accessing your local Wi-Fi in a sense. And this often is used to send files over the internet. That's how AirDrop works. Sometimes it works with Bluetooth. It's a little complicated. Anyway, it also is how a lot of video games, local video games, will play with people on the same house Wi-Fi. So it's not very important itself. So you've made it this far. Now on to that bonus tip I hinted a little bit ago, and that is using screen time to enforce privacy restrictions and being able to use screen time remotely. So the problem with doing all these changes on your child's device by going to the privacy settings on the iPhone is, number one, you need your child's device in person. So if you want to not allow Snapchat to have access to the camera, you're going to need their phone in person to make that change on the settings app. And your child can just go back into the settings app and change it back to allow Snapchat to have the camera. But you're able to do that, A, remotely using screen time, and B, you're able to enforce that with a password so that they can't just change it back. So in order to do that, you're going to go to screen time on your device, and then you're going to find your child's device. You're going to press that, and then you're going to go to content and privacy restrictions. There is where you're going to be able to make all the changes remotely, just as if you had their phone in person. And you're able to select don't allow changes, which blocks them from just changing it back on their device. Make sure, however, that you have a screen time password, or else all that would be in vain. So if you don't have a screen time password, they can still just change it back. I know a lot of parents will make that mistake. So make sure you have the screen time password, and make sure that the screen time password is secure and it's just not 1234, which is very easy to guess. And if you want help with understanding parental controls, you want help setting all that up, I have a free guide on my website at parenttech.support. Once you sign up for my newsletter there, you will receive my free guide called the 7 Essential Parental Moves to Make on Your Child's Device. And that will give you all the basics on how to use screen time. Or if you just want to skip that, you can work with me directly. You can, again, sign up for that on my website at parenttech.support. Go to my Work with Jack page. But that's all for this week. Don't forget to share this podcast with other parents who would benefit from this podcast, and like, subscribe, download, all that good stuff. Anyway, thanks for tuning in today. I hope you have a great week.